The book, The Exchange After the Firm, was an absolute bore to read. At least one thing, John Grisham did not go back and forth with the timeline to keep the reader's attention. John Grisham was more interested in letting the readers know he has been around the world in style. After chapter 4, the book itself was a tiresome read. In the book, I didn't know what Mitch was thinking about visiting his recruit buddy Lamar from the Bandini firm with the first 4 chapters in the book, because it had absolutely nothing to do with the main storyline except for one very minute detail. If I told you that small detail, it would spoil part of the book. Another item that will semi-ruin the book would be the author's note at the end of the book. It will spoil something I thought might happen or should have happened, but it didn't. If the story ended like I thought it should, I guarantee it would make the next sequel more exciting, intense, and might even convince Tom Cruise to play the part Mitch again. This book, The Exchange After the Firm, reminded me something like the book by Stephen King and Peter Straub called The Talisman. To me, Stephen and Peter wrote that book while traveling across the United States. For the book The Exchange After the Firm, while John Grisham was writing this book, he was actually bragging about all the different places he has visited around the world with such detail. A writer writes what he knows. I was surprised when John Grisham did not leave Mitch in Tripoli and continue the storyline to turn this boring book into a fast-paced action read like the novel The Firm. What John Grisham did is he turned Mitch's wife, Abby, who's basically alone most of the time in dangerous surroundings, into the hero of the story. What I can't stand is John Grisham does the same damn unrealistic family life like in James Patterson books. The father, Alex Cross, works all kinds of hours and hardly sees the wife and kiddies, but when the father arrives at home, all is forgiven and they both fall into the perfect little family with great family activities from a lot of help from Alex's mom. Have to admit, though, the character Alex Cross in the later books from James Patterson wrote, having an adopted child with major issues from her past that bled into the family's harmonious lifestyle. After Mitch enters the dark underworld of a global renowned law firm, I thought the real action would start, but John Grisham continued to write as if the storyline was a 12-course meal. After entering the dark underworld, Mr. Grisham wrote about the politics, the different cultures of people and what they were doing, the groups of dignitaries, and about the reality how slow the courts move is like watching paint dry. Thought the book would take off after the chapter 16. It didn't. Chapter 5 through 16 was letting the reader get to know all the players. From chapter 17 to the end was usual mundane people under terrorist threat and the good guys doing their usual cloak and dagger shit to protect an individual. Don't know if I would have wrote that Abby stays in New York by herself with Jacko in the bottom of her bag, while Mitch, the boys, mother, and father-in-law are staying in a giant, beautiful 18-bedroom house with plenty of staff and a couple of boats on a small island on the Atlantic coast near the town of Camden. A person would have to take the ferry to get there. Wow. John Grisham wrote this book to prolong the outcome, meaning he wanted to create more pages to classify this book as a novel. Instead of using obvious methods to track the terrorists, he went the long way around in his writing to do so. Shorter time to track down a terrorist. Why not go back and see who poisoned Mitch? Who was a bartender, or find out who all knew about Giovanna's trip to the bridge out in the desert. Plus, the fanatics emailed a message from the Cyber Cafe from New Jersey. No investigation was done by checking with the cafe if they had video cameras viewing their customers. If not, the coffee bar could have checked the time when a certain computer was used and logged off. Without video cams inside, they could have checked the cameras outside on various buildings to look when the person logged off, then use facial recognition. On all computers, you can see what has been done on a computer by using the computer's administrative tools. I guess John Grisham thinks we all have photographic memories, trying to remember all the characters in the book, and hope we remember what they do. I lost count after 41 characters. After a while, I said to myself, fuck this shit. Couple of times, Mitch didn't seem to care about his wife being in immediate danger. One time while Abby was in Marrakech waiting to talk to a terrorist, Mitch was talking to her on another phone she had while he was ordering what he was going to eat for lunch. Another time Abby was in a dangerous situation, Mitch got bored on the Cayman Islands and rented a scooter to try to complete the 22-mile loop around while stopping at a couple bars to have a beer and ending his small excursion by a cliff that he could enjoy the view. Another scene that drove me crazy was while Abby was waiting for a call from Hassan, a terrorist with important information. The wall should have been closing in on her and the apartment getting smaller. But guess what Abby was doing while waiting for the call from the terrorist? Well, by John Grisham's writing, she was editing one of her latest cookbooks. Yeah, right, sure. In the book, The Exchange After the Firm, John Grisham gives all the information about the people, places, and activities in professional, everyday lives to satisfy the reader. But as the person continues to read, they find delicious little morsels about each person, location, actions to lock a perfect image in one's mind. The book The Exchange After the Firm was a fast read with excellent account description, but it was not an exciting novel because if John Grisham made it too exciting, it would have taken the reader's attention away from all the perfectly described foreign places he has stayed in his life. I guess John Grisham is getting old or just not hungry anymore. At the beginning of the book, the reader finds Mitch McDear, the only successful survivor from the Bedini firm. He is now an international lawyer, being a partner for 11 years with Scully and Piercing, who has been established in 31 cities on 5 continents. Mitch is still married to Abby, who has ample clout with the chefs around New York City because she is a senior editor of a prominent company, EPA Korea. Mitch and Abby have twin boys, Clark and Carter. Carter's the mature one. For a moment of peace, Mitch takes a little break each day to look out his 48th floor window to Battery Park below on the southern tip of Manhattan. He enjoys watching Lady Liberty blessing each watercraft as they pass. But like hundreds of other lawyers in the building and over 2,000 scattered around the world, Mitch is always on the clock. At the age of 41, Mitch does not participate in intramural sports anymore, but he's still in decent shape by skipping meals and going to the firm's gym 3 times a week. On his phone, he sees he has a meeting with William Backstrom, who runs the firm's pro bono programs. All lawyers in the firm have to donate 10% or 250 hours of their time to various cases each year. In the last 5 years, Mitch has lost 2 death row cases. Mitch wants no part of another death row case because the last one he spent years on the case, adding up to 800 hours. Then he lost. A total failure in Mitch's mind. Tad Carey is his name, William told Mitch, and then continued, the guy is crazy. In the state of Tennessee, doesn't want to hear his insane defense. The courts have no sympathy for Tad since he killed 3 undercover narco officers. William continued to persuade Mitch, you have to get him so he will talk to you and by some miracle have a specialist come in and do an evaluation. William went on, Tad has become quite the jailhouse lawyer because he filed the necessary papers to terminate his lawyer, Amos Patrick. Amos is a character, and he is a native of Memphis. With being the best lawyer down there, William went to say, one more thing, the prison is in Nashville, but Amos, Tad's lawyer, works in Memphis. You have to see him first. Suddenly, Mitch got flashbacks from 15 years ago, spending time in Memphis, and nearly got Abby and himself killed. Out of an alphabet score, I give the book The Exchange After the Firm a C-. It was just fucking boring. On the subject matter and keeping the reader's interest, I give the book a D. On the actual writing, I give John Grisham a B+. Would I recommend to read John Grisham's book, The Exchange After the Firm? If you enjoy great description writing without much excitement, go for it. The word exchange is on page 274. An average person's step is 2.5 feet in length. While Abby was in New York City by herself, she had to go 100 feet by the terrorist instructions. That's 40 steps, not 30 steps. Hey, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate your viewing and value your comments. Thank you.